So here we have a subscribe inside another subscribe. And this is a pattern that you may see in a lot of real-world applications. Now, I want to show you a better, cleaner, and more elegant way to rewrite this code. Before we get started, let's go to our data service. So this is the data service that we built in the last section, consuming HTTP services. Look at the return type of getAll method. It returns an observable of any. From now on, anytime you see observable, think of a collection. So here we have a collection, and in this collection, every item, its type is any. Okay? Now let's see what happens when I comment out these two lines. Look at the return type of getAll. Now it returns an observable of response. So here we have a collection, and in this collection, we're going to get a response object that arrives asynchronously. Okay? But why? Because this get method of the HTTP class returns an observable of response. So because we are returning the result immediately, that's why the return type of getAll method is also observable of response. Now let's see what happens when we apply the map operator. Let's look at the return type of this method. Now instead of observable of response, we get observable of any, because we're mapping the response object to a new object of type any. Because when we call this JSON method, look, it returns an object of type any. So here's one way to visualize what happened here. Initially, we had an observable of response. So every object, every item in this observable or in this collection will be an instance of the response class, okay? We applied the map operator, and as a result, we got a new observable, and in this observable, every item, its type is any instead of response, okay? Now back to our GitHub followers component. Here we're combining two different observables, and then we subscribe to the result. Let's look at the type of the combined parameter. The type of this parameter is param_map_array. And here's a simple way to visualize this. So here we're subscribing to an observable, and every item in this observable is of type param_map_array. Okay? Now, similar to how we use the map operator in our data service, we can use the map operator and map a param_map_array into followers array. So we'll give it this param_map_array as an input, and as the output we'll get the followers array. So here on the top, I'm going to import a couple of operators from RxJS. So I'm going to duplicate this line twice. I'm going to change the second one to add/operator/map. And for the second one, I'm going to use operator/SwitchMap. You're going to see the difference between these two operators in a second. So back to ng on init. After we combine these observables, I'm going to apply the map operator. So what is the input here? That is a param_map_array, right? So let's call this combined, goes to. Now let's verify the type of this parameter. So we can see it's param_map_array. And if we didn't have this map operator here, and directly subscribe to that observable again, you would get a param_map_array object, right? Now let's bring this map operator back. So we get this param_map_array object, and at this point we want to call the server to get the list of followers and return them. And then we'll subscribe to that observable, and as the result, we'll have the array of followers. So this code we have here in the subscribe, I'm going to cut it and move it inside the map operator. So cut, put this here. Now we don't need this subscribe anymore, because in this map operator, the intention is to return the list of followers. So later below when we subscribe, we'll have the list of followers, okay? So delete, and we don't need this commented code. So here in the subscribe method, we should get the list of followers, and then use this to set this .followers. Now we have a compilation error, and I'm going to show you how to fix this in a second. But what I want to point out here is that with this new implementation, we don't have a subscribe inside another subscribe. We use the map operator to transform the objects in our observables. Now let's see what is this compilation error. Type void is not assignable to type any array. So if you look at the type of these followers, you can see it's void. Why is that? Because here in this map function, we are not returning anything. So the return type is void. And when we subscribe to this, it's like we are subscribing to an observable or a collection where every item is void. So here we want to return something, and what we return from this map function will be the input into our subscribe method, okay? So here we want to return the output of our service. Return. Now what is coming out of this function will be the input into the subscribe method. Let's check the type of this followers parameter again. So it's no longer void, but it's observable of any. And we still have a compilation issue. Let's see a visualization of what we have done here. So we use the map operator to convert a param map array object into an observable of any. Because this service here, this getAll method, look, it returns an observable of any. So because here we're returning an observable of any, this will be the input to the subscribe method. And that's why the type of followers is observable of any. In other words, when we subscribe to this observable, every item in this observable is going to be an observable of any. It's like we have a collection inside another collection. Or in other words, it's like every item in a collection is another collection. So we ended up with a hierarchy. What we want in the subscribe method is a followers array, not observable of followers array, okay? So to fix this problem, instead of the map operator, we're going to use SwitchMap. So let's change this to SwitchMap. And the compilation error is gone. Now, if you hover your mouse over this followers parameter, you can see its type is any, which in this case is the followers array. Also, if you look at the SwitchMap method, you can see it returns an observable of any. So when we subscribe to an observable of any, every item in this observable or every item in this collection is of type any. Okay? So here's the final result and a more cleaner and elegant way to combine multiple observables, call the server, subscribe to the result, and initialize a field in this class.